Good evening and welcome to The Real Study with your hosts, Mr. Snitbits,
Welcome back to The Real Study.
Black Girl Marvel,
But I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Mr. Marvelite,
not knowing anything about the film.
all the movie things,
And like I was locked in right away.
the pre-review with Super Gummy Guru,
Review.
and me, the Real Study movie voice guy. Let's go to the poster wall.
Good evening and welcome to The Real Study. I am Mr. Snidbits, and with me as always to my left is Black Girl Marvel, and also to my left is Mr. Marvelite. Know all the movie things. He's not feeling well tonight, so we're going to wish him the best and hope that he gets better and can rejoin us soon. We are doing an all Indiana Jones night tonight, 100%. We are not going to be doing Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I hope for obvious reasons. Let's move on over to the drive-in. How are you guys doing this week?
Doing pretty good.
Doing pretty good.
Good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love it.
Actually, I'm tired because I binge watched all three films back to back to back.
Oh, that's rough for anybody, even a fan.
Because my little sister graduated from University of Michigan, and she had like 2 graduations. So it was like
Congrats.
crazy. So Friday and Saturday, I was like, I'm gonna watch one for each day, and it didn't happen. Yeah.
Hey, Muncie, how you doing? Muncie's in the chat.
Muncie.
Hi, Muncie, or Boy Wonder, as I like to call him.
And it's Hannah in the chat. We got everybody showing up. So, looks like Darthman followed us as well, Mr. Marvelite.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So, let's get right into it. These are 3 classics. Mr. Marvelite and I will probably say that we've seen these movies dozens of times.
Grew up on them.
Yeah, like this is our childhood. But the interesting thing is that Black Girl Marvel had never seen these films, and we're going through a lot of these types of films with her to, just get your take. And it's nice to see a fresh take on them, what they're like after this long, compared to like the absolute nostalgia you're going to get from me, at least. That said, I think we should go right into Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I think we should go right into Lala's take because. I think that's what we should do. Raiders of the Lost Ark, 1980 film. Is it 80?
81.
81. Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, Harrison Ford, Karen Allen, and so on. John Reese Davies, as well as some
John
interesting,
Rhys Davies.
right? As well as some interesting credits as far as like Lawrence Kasdan doing the screenplay, as well as John Williams doing the score. So you've got some pretty big names involved in this film. So what was your initial take on Raiders of the Lost Ark?
It was I did not care for Indiana Jones at all. I mean, okay, I'll say this. I'll say what I said on my reaction video. I said that I see why this film is like the mecca of what it is. I see why. I do. But I also see that I also feel like it's not really because of like how great the storytelling is or how great the action is. I think it's because it's kind of like first of its timey type of thing, like that type of adventure trope type of thing. And I feel like a lot of people watch this with their like dad or with their mom or with their family, and so like it has like heavy nostalgia for them. But seeing as I'm like of the world, I guess I'll say, and like I've seen so many things, and then to go back and watch this, I was like, I see it, but it's just like I feel like it went the way of oh, I'm sorry, Muncie. Yes, I'm about to bash your childhood. I'm so sorry. I just saw that. It went the way of like not terrible. I keep saying terrible, but I really don't mean that. I just don't have more words. It just went the way of like bad 80s writing, or just like, or lazy writing, or like lazy 80s writing. They're like, we can get away with like the barest minimum. Nobody's going to think anything of it, and it's fine. And I was just kind of like, because honestly, Karen, okay, Marion did nothing for me. Her character did nothing for me.
Hmm?
But again, it's the 80s. It's 80s writing. Men are writing for women. I'm pretty sure it was nice seeing Kathleen Kennedy's name, but I was just like, I'm pretty sure she did nothing for women in this entire film. And I do like that they tried to step away from the like damsel in distress trope with Marion. But then it's like it's like you try to give her the guise of a man, but still make her a woman, and it just didn't. It
The
didn't
drinking,
blend well.
the fighting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was just like the attitude. It's like, honey, you're still a woman in Nepal, I think she was in, or something like that, with these strange men coming in talking trash, and you just did you think that you was like, what did you think was gonna happen? Like, you're by yourself, you have no bodyguards, you have nobody to like back you up, and you're just like talking smack to these like strange. It's just like, what? So I get what they were trying to do with her, and I appreciate it, especially with it being like an 80s film. I was like, okay, they tried something different. It just landed very flat to me.
Mm-hmm.
There were nice moments of like action, even though the choreography seems so sloppy. But it seems so sloppy. And I just didn't care about the relationship between Indy and Marion because they didn't establish anything to me. Like they let us know that like they had like a past, like he worked with her father, but it just wasn't enough for me to care about them getting back into a relationship or even them kissing. I was like, who cares? I was like, it's Nazis and the Ark of the Covenant. Like what? Like it's.
You got to have a love interest. You got to have a love interest. So they had to put her in there somehow.
I mean, it's the 80s, so like
right.
that. I mean, my brain wrapped around that.
Right.
My brain wrapped around that.
They're
Yeah.
playing off 50s serial tropes as well. So like the concept of the 50s serials is a big part of Indiana Jones. Like the entire series is loaded with those larger than life, over the top tropes.
Yeah.
This was George Lucas and Steven Spielberg's attempt at their own James Bond. And I'll have to say, I don't like James Bond at all. I'm bored by it. And that's not to knock it. Well-made movies, but they're not my thing. But I love Indiana Jones because it's a historical nature of it. The looking back at human past, and there's like, he understands human nature. He's also extremely smart. He knows multiple languages. I swear, when they call him doctor, like he's got multiple PhDs.
Listen, he's very knowledgeable. For me, it's not the character of Indiana Jones. It's the story. I guess it's like the way it's like the circumstances in which they put him in are just like, I'm just kind of like, I don't care. Like it's not enough for me to like hang on to, I guess. And I was just like, all right, I guess. Like he's very smart. I love when he was like detectiving and figuring things out. And he's like, the whole time I was watching the movie, I was like, so I had all these movies come into my brain. I was like, so is Laura Croft the female version of Indiana Jones? I was like, wait a second. Then I was like, wait a minute. Is O'Connor from The Mummy supposed to be our generation's Indiana Jones? I was like, wait a second. Like my brain, I was like, is Firefly, is Nathan Fillion supposed to be?
Yes.
Like Indiana Jones? Like so, my brain was just
kind of
like
across the board. Yeah.
I was just picking like stuff like out because I was just like,
he's been that influential.
I can tell.
Absolutely.
I can tell that he's been the influence for this, but I prefer those things.
Sure.
And not Indiana Jones.
All right. Mr. Marvelite, when was the last time you watched these besides this time? When was the very last time?
So I got the Indiana Jones Blu-ray set not too long after it came out, and so I binged all of them. I even watched Kingdom of the Crystal Skull probably more than I would like to admit. And so it was definitely one of those things where I probably would say I haven't, for Raiders of the Lost Ark, the last time, hold on a second, I get to transfer the baby.
The little green baby.
Go to Wanda. Go to mommy.
Come on.
She's like, nah, they don't want to do it.
She's gonna fly right to your shoulder. I know, right?
Okay, she's gone. So Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's not been that recent. It's probably been at least, I want to say at least right before my kid was born. He's 7.
Okay, that's a while.
So it's been a while. But for me, I have this issue where I remember things very vividly, especially for the fact of how many times I'd watched Raiders of the Lost Ark. Which interesting though is Raiders of the Lost Ark was not my first introduction into Indiana Jones. It was actually Temple of Doom.
So you watched them
And so
chronologically.
yes, and so it's definitely an interesting story. It's really sad to consider how many like stereotypes that there are in this film. Um, it's it's we're just coming off of Moon Knight, and it's talking about like the cinematics where we're seeing Egypt on film probably for the first time without the yellow, and you go and you're like, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, go watch The Last Crusade, because, or I'm sorry, not Last Crusade,
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the Lost Ark,
Yeah.
because you're going to understand what it is. It's this idea of making it look, and I always wondered why they did that. And I do get it as that old feel, but at the same time, it's sad that we don't ever properly depict like a location like Egypt. That it's the same type of things, it's the same stereotypes. Now, some of the atmosphere that happened was very spot on, but a lot of it was not. Like, and it can be very problematic. I think these movies don't age very well when you think of it that way. It's almost like Lucas Spielberg, they're wanting to make their own Indiana Jones or their own James Bond, like you said, but then it's also their attempt to giving Harrison Ford another opportunity to be Han Solo.
I said that too. I said he's an archaeological Han Solo.
Exactly, and so
they have a lot of the same blundery personality tropes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also like the misogynistic, like,
exactly. All that stuff,
yeah. And it's like, and it's, mind you, I think it's like the idea, I acknowledge that there are these problems with these films. And I think it's the same thing. Like, I grew up loving Big Trouble in Little China.
But that's a problematic movie.
It's a very problematic movie.
Right.
And it's something that I also think that there should not be a remake. Pop Culture Rabbi asked the question right before I got on, when it came to Temple of Doom, which we're not on yet, but it's like, do you think that there are certain things that happen in that film that would we allow them today? And it's like, I think it's very interesting, like especially the scene at the beginning. I think it's interesting to acknowledge that was the world that we lived in, that wasn't the world, but that was the perspective that we had on the world, and that hopefully we have matured and we have grown. It does not need to be recreated, but it's understanding and taking it for face value.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I love, of course, the double cross at the beginning where he's got this partner or this guy with him. They're
Alfred Molina of all people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're tripping all of the traps, and of course he's being chased by the giant boulder, which is iconic to the Indiana Jones. It seemed like in the 80s there was like two types of things. You had westerns that you would deal with, or you had Nazis involved. It was like that was the thing. But like I always thought of like Indiana Jones, and what I love about it is what inspired so many different things, like Pitfall, the video game. There are so many different, like even like recently how we handle the reference in Avengers Endgame when Don Cheadle is talking to Nebula and he's like, there are traps and booby traps and everything else. That was a direct Indiana reference. It didn't necessarily I don't know. It just I feel like there are things that I love about the films, but then it's acknowledging that they're not perfect. So I'll just leave it at that.
So just and you, everything you said was great points, because it's something we should do, but that's part of watching film in history, because it is a part of history now. It is a part of what the interpretation of the 30s in the 80s was. So that's how people saw things then, and whether they're right or wrong now is important to discuss, but somewhat inconsequential to a degree, because the film is what it is, and you're either going to watch it or you're not. And if you can let go of some of those things, the story, I think, still holds. I still think that the action holds, and that it's also of a different era. So I don't know that I'm not trying to make excuses for any of it. I think that what Marvelite said is perfect, but I do think that it's no different than like when we watch North by Northwest or any other classic film. where those things are completely there and we need to address them. But
you
that doesn't
ever
mean we
notice-
didn't like Singing in the Rain. We really did enjoy Singing in the Rain, but it's not all of us, but some of us did, even though some
Right.
of those tropes are there. Real quick.
One question for you, real quick.
Oh,
I
okay.
have to ask a question. Do you ever notice that it seems like there's two types, like especially when we portray like Nazis and everything else? I was thinking about this with North by Northwest, this movie, and then you also, if you think of Rocketeer, there's this idea that there are the Nazis, which are obviously bad guys, but there's always those sellouts to the Nazis who know how bad things are, but they
Balak.
still are willing. Yeah, I mean, like that trope. It's like they're even worse than the bad guys because they're consciously bad, but these people are like consciously willing to ignore how bad they are just for the money's sake.
Right.
Or the
For their
glory.
own purpose.
The
Yeah,
fortune and
exactly.
glory.
You know, they get their own purpose.
So yeah,
Oh, look at you,
apparently,
quote movies.
oh yeah, that's me. So yeah, apparently most people didn't know, but yeah, if you look up chronologically, Temple of Doom takes place in 1935, Raiders of the Lost Ark takes place in 1936, and Last Crusade takes place in 38. And it's weird when you think about how quickly those things kind of happen on top of each other. This guy never has a moment's break in his life. You can also include the Young Indiana Jones adventures, which is basically everything from between when we see River Phoenix and when we see Harrison Ford. And that actually starts Sean Patrick Flannery as Indiana Jones. Just, if you want more content.
Somebody's a fan. I love it.
So it was a good show. It was fun. I wouldn't put it at the same caliber at this, so Lala, I don't suggest it for you.
I'm not going to partake in it.
And it was. It's the Hardy Boys, but with an archaeological kid before he goes to college. But he's still smart. His dad, obviously, as we know, trained him. Anyway.
I really feel like they did 10-10 better.
Fair. So as far as Raiders, I hadn't seen this in about 12 years because I'd seen them so many times. I got tired of watching them. That's, you see a movie too many times. This is one of the few VHS sets my parents bought. And so we had this around, so we watched it all the time. And yes, like Lala said, we watched it as a family. I watched it with my dad. And so I hadn't really watched this since my dad passed. And this was one of our shows, we watched together. So that was a bit tender for me and difficult, especially in Last Crusade when it's literally about his dad. But rewatching Raiders, whenever I rewatch the first film in a series as of the last decade of my life, I find why I realize that most sequels are pretty much trash. And I don't mean that to knock sequels, but they just never can seem to quite hold up to the previous film. And I think Raiders and the two following films fit that exact. Wow, Joker, that was amazing. Holy crap, dude.
Whoa,
5
Joker.
gift subs. Wow, sir. Welcome.
Thanks,
Haven't seen you in a
man.
while, and that's just
Welcome,
boom.
Joker.
You're amazing,
Greatest,
sir. That was
man.
really, really nice. It looks
Listen,
like
I would love to do a joint podcast with like Joker and his people and us.
I agree, and he has invited us. So if you guys want to, you just let me know, and we'll hook you up and get you over there to talk to him because it was a fun time when I went on his show. It was a
I was
blast.
on the show. I've been over there. It was
Yeah,
fun.
that's right. You did go on the show. So yeah, I wouldn't mind some crossover. That wouldn't be terrible. What I was saying though, was that this viewing really solidified that for me for this series. I think Raiders of the Lost Ark of the 3 films is amazing. I think it hits a high bar that is hard to match. And I think it's really with some of those opening sequences. We get to see the adventure style with the rock, running from the rock, running from the plane. We get to see Indy's aversion to snakes almost immediately, and his swagger, but also his lack of swagger. We get to see both all in that first 10 minutes. And then we transfer over to seeing him as a professor where he's really got the swagger and the girls are blinking I love you at him and stuff.
Oh, thanks,
Biggie.
Biggie,
Man.
Biggie didn't want to feel like he was getting
shown up.
showing up. So he was like,
Oh
whoa,
no,
whoa, whoa,
we're
whoa.
close to a hype train.
He was like,
We
whoa,
really
whoa,
are close to a
whoa.
hype train. Oh, that never happens. Wow.
Look, he said I had to keep my spot. Biggie was like, hold on. You so come through.
He's been number 1 for a while. And thank you for that, Biggie. Wow,
thanks,
and welcome to everybody who is now a real student and a Twitch subscriber. You now have access to more emotes and technically more access on our Discord channel too. So you can go over and actually do a bit more over there. And we're getting that sorted out. Back to my point though. The sequence in which the government shows up, and I love the government stooges because they are just like perfect government stooges. They bring Indy and Marcus Brody in, And I love Marcus Brody's shamelessness about just being like, yeah, I buy from this guy. He's not reputable, but his name's Indiana Jones and he brings us the best pieces, so we're going to let it happen. But that sequence where they explain the Ark of the Covenant, they explain what's going to happen in the film, I think is one of the better pieces of George Lucas's writing, which makes me wonder if it's Lawrence Kasdan, but it really blocks it out and it makes me go, I'm ready for this movie. I'm ready to go watch him get this arc. It does not let me skip a beat right into that. And so this time I really noticed things like that in the film, but I digress. I don't want to take up all the time.
I have a question.
Sure.
I mean, I don't have a question. I mean, I do have a question, but I have two things. So when I was watching The Last Crusade, my first thought was, I thought about it again. I kept thinking about different movies throughout like me watching this. And I was like, is Nick Cage supposed to be in National Treasure like Indiana Jones? Like my brain.
There were elements that were inspired by it. Yes.
I know. My brain was just like, wait a second. Like literally, I wish you guys could have been in my brain the whole time watching these films. But here's my question. In Raiders, if Indy never dug for the Ark, would they have found the Ark?
So that's a big question, like on Big Bang, and it's like kind of a trope, or not a trope, but a meme in our society right now, whether or not he needed to even be in the film. And I think this could be an interesting discussion because I would argue he does need to be in the film, even though everybody claims you could take him out and the same thing happens. But that depends. So are you asking, you want my explanation now, or do you guys want to get it?
I definitely want to know because I watched the film and I was just like, because these are little things that like I understand. It's like 80s, right? And like I said, it's lazy to the point where it's like certain things will happen and I'll be like, well, why would you do it this way? Because it's like, why would you be digging during the same time as them? They can see you. Like you're like, I know that he was like in disguise, but it's broad daylight.
They didn't get done before daylight. They were behind schedule, if anything.
And then it's like if they see you digging in the part that they didn't tell their people to dig in, they would know. And then that's what happened. They were like, wait a second, these people are digging over there that we didn't authorize this. So I was just like, it was just like it's not smart to me. Like that's not smart thinking to me or like smart writing to me. But again, I'm like, it's 80s and 80s has like a lot of 80s films that I like has like that type of.
Let me, if I may, I can probably at least with the digging thing, and then I want to get to why I still think he would still need to be in it for this to happen. So the digging thing, they talk about Saleh. There's a moment where Saleh and him are discussing about, of course, they would pick Saleh, one of the best diggers in Egypt, and Saleh says they hired everybody, and they're paying pennies. They're breaking people's backs. So literally every known digger in Egypt, probably in northern Africa, was there helping them, which means that there would be no time in which people really weren't digging unless it was late at night. But I'm pretty sure that was an area they hadn't been to, and that's why it was mysterious, not because there were diggers digging more. I don't know. That's parsing it out a little bit, but
to me, that's still like to my point though. Like you're in a spot where like it's not even authorized for them to be. Everybody's here. Did you really think nobody was going to see you there? But I mean, again, like I said, like some things you just let go. Like but again, I'm watching the film. It's my duty to like watch it and see what I liked and what I didn't like, and that was just something that was just like, okay. But I was really thinking about the Big Bang thing, and I went into this film to watch it to actually see if I could like refute what they said or like does it make sense. And I was really thinking about it because if they were digging in the wrong place because they didn't have the right thing, if he would have never showed up with the right thing to dig in the right place, like
here's the argument that like Big Bang makes and others have made that he doesn't need to be in it. With the amulet, which is where everything comes from. The only reason that the Germans are digging in the wrong place is because the amulet is burned onto the main German's hand, and they only have half of that. And that allows them to dig, but not know how high the pole is. So they were in the map room, and they were able to use the amulet and the map. They kind of recreated their own amulet, and that created the wrong place for them. Now, the question is, if we go back to the bar where Marion is, thank you for the bits, Hannah. That's amazing. Thank you so much. If we go back to the bar where Marion meets Indy in the film for the first time, the Nazis are, of course, looking for the amulet, and they're going to get it from her if Indy doesn't show up, right? So the question is, are they, though? Because she takes the amulet off after drinking and sets it down on just a random table, and then goes about her cleaning. And the Nazis come in and they're going to take it from her. Now, do they scour the whole place? Possibly. But my mind says they're going to go behind the bar. They're going to go into her office. They're going to go into her personal belongings to try to find it. And if it's not there, they'll probably offer, right? So then I don't think they get the Ark if they can't find the amulet. So it's tricky to say whether they would. There's a lot of headcanon required in order to assume he wouldn't have needed to be
Right,
involved.
because my thing is, would she have even taken it off if Indy would have never showed up? And
I'm gonna
said what he
wreck it.
said? Because it made her go into her shirt. Because like we didn't even know it was there. You know what I mean? Like we didn't know it was there until he left, and she just like pulled it out of her shirt. So like if he would have never went to talk about it, to ask about it, these things wouldn't have been put into motion. I mean, it's for the sake of the plot that it did happen because we needed this story to happen. But if he would have never showed up, she would have closed her shop like normal. They would have never showed up because they knew where he was going next.
Damn it. Hey, Mrs. Bats McSkelly.
Hey, Betsy.
Yo, Betsy. See, this is why I always love seeing. I'm sitting here just enjoying this conversation.
I really want to go back and rewatch it now.
And, yeah,
I'm just saying.
Because at some point he has to have needed to be in the movie. And the argument, again, in the Big Bang episode is that at the very end, he was supposed to, he got it to the government, so it's now safe.
Right.
But really, he was supposed to put it in the museum, so he didn't even get that right.
And here's my argument. The only things that would have been different in that movie, because I was saying this in the live, is the monkey would have lived and the girl would have died.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there'd been no reason to
They
poison
would
the
have
dates.
never been the poison dates.
No reason.
Yeah. Actually, the
was
monkey
so
would have never
sad.
hung out with Sala and his family at all.
I was so sad. I was like, the monkey died, even though he was a traitor. But I was like, the monkey
Well, no, he
died.
worked for
I
the
was like,
bad guys from day one.
No, I know, but he was still a traitor because like he was being all cool with the kids and her and all that kind of stuff. I know he's a traitor from day, but I'm just like, they care for you,
You really
bro.
can't call the monkey a traitor because it doesn't. It's following its directions. It doesn't know what it's
Still a
doing.
traitor.
So Indiana
Not
Jones
monkey.
does have to be in the movie, though.
Uh-oh. Something, the wheels was clicking. Why?
It's his story.
I mean, that's a great, like,
They literally
Yeah.
renamed it Indiana Jones
All
and Raiders
there
of the
would
Lost
have
Ark,
been that would have happened,
even though it's called Raiders of
if
the
he
Lost Ark.
wasn't involved in this story, is there would have been a news article about a whole bunch of dead Nazis were found in the middle of nowhere.
yeah, they would have, if here's the thing, he is the catalyst that sets everything into motion. So
Right.
I understand that because you need that for a story.
No,
But also, if the government would have never been like, yo, we need this thingamabob or whatever, if they would have never came to him, if he would have never did some things, these things would have never happened. They would have been digging in the wrong spot.
no, they
They- or
wouldn't
they
have.
would've
They would
never-
have been digging
or
in the
they
right
would-
spot.
Would
Because you said it. So she was wearing the amulet. If Jones never showed up, she would have had the amulet in her shirt when they came to get her, and they
But
would
how
have.
did they know?
They would have torn her. I mean, they're Nazis. It's 1930s. They would have done terrible things to her and found that amulet on her person. We know
They would have
that to be
probably
true.
lit her on fire.
Whatever they needed to do, they would have found
try
it
to
on her
get her
person.
out,
They would
get
have
her
ripped her shirt open, whatever. I'm not trying to get too grotesque, but they would have found it on her.
Man. I don't know.
Because he came in and then left, she took the amulet off. Remember, so you were right about that because he asked about the amulet and then leaves. So she takes it off, meaning they can't find it, and that's the only reason the Nazi gets it burned on his hand. So you are proving your point, not knowing you're proving it. So yes, I'm wrong. He doesn't need to be in the movie, and I want to watch it again just to make sure, but he really doesn't need to be in it. Now the other
And
two he has to be in, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say this because it's gonna be a thing. You all know I have like a religious background and whatever, but it always irritated me that the Ark of the Covenant was depicted the way it was because the only thing the Ark of the Covenant was supposed to have supernaturally was you could not touch it.
Yeah, you couldn't touch it. Yeah.
If you touched it, you died. If you opened it up, you would have found tablets. You would have found
Yeah, you would have found the
bowl
10
of bread.
Commandments. Like that's all you would have found.
Well, the second
iteration.
because Moses got anger issues. But it was like it was one of those things where it's kind of like but there would have been interesting things like Aaron's staff that blossomed, that kind of stuff, but I get what they did for story's sake, but it always like struck me, and I get the whole concept because it's all this story bleeds into even stuff. I mean, it's history in a sense, but it bleeds into like even like the context of like Captain America: The First Avenger. I'm sorry if you guys get irritated because I'm Mr. Marvelite. I'm going to reference Marvel and almost
That's why you're on the
anything I
show.
possibly can.
I want you to
And
find a way. That's the
but
important part.
like because Hitler was obsessed with the occult, and he was obsessed with these ideas of relics of power that could fuel his armies and could do these things. And as much as we try to admit that, you know, how evil he was, the dude was also extremely crazy, because he really thought that these relics could give him power to have this never-ending Reich. And I mean, he's an idiot, but the amount of occultism that is founded in these things, this would have been like pure Nazi propaganda. We found the Ark of the Covenant, you know, everything else, mind you. If we're talking about the Ark of the Covenant in that context, I can tell you right now, evil people who possessed it in the Bible, they were struck with hemorrhoids, extremely bad hemorrhoids. I would have loved to have seen the entire Nazi army get that, but you know, it is what it is.
I mean, they
I'm done.
got theirs. I mean, we
Oh, they got
managed to
theirs.
get them
Their
theirs to
faces
some
melted
degree.
off, but
well, most
could you
of them.
imagine none of them being able to sit down at all during the army?
So let's talk about that. I know this movie is from 1981, so the special effects in some ways haven't held up, but to me, those scenes are still utterly terrifying and creepy, and they've stuck with me in a way that when I was a child, they gave me nightmares. I never thought that a PG movie would have face melting, but this is a PG-13 film. Like, I don't care what it's rated. This is a PG-13
Yeah.
film. I would never let my daughter watch this. I was watching it. I was like, wow, look at this. 48 dead people in the first 10 minutes. Skeletons, snakes. I mean, not that the wildlife should be a problem, but they're put in a context of scary. So it's, I don't know, biblical hemorrhoids. Yes, he did just say biblical hemorrhoids. That's right.
Yes.
So yeah, it's the frogs and the hemorrhoids. Like that's, you get, yeah.
I mean, I think biblical hemorrhoids are just hemorrhoids.
No, it was okay. Literally,
Where did they come from? The hand of God,
Okay,
or
so-
were they just you sat too long? Like very different hemorrhoids.
But it's so hilarious. Like that story always cracks me up because people don't ever put the context together. The Philistines had the ark. It kept not. They put it in the temple with their god. The god kept falling over. They weren't getting the picture, and so God basically struck every single person in the nation with extremely like large plum-sized hemorrhoids.
So, and they all had
were-
to sit on either rocks or hard wood chair. Like, do we even have chairs then? Like in that sense?
Yeah.
And it was
kinda
so
do.
bad that they realized it was
Still.
the ark that did it. So they put it on an ox cart and
No
sent
cushions.
it away, wanting
No
just to get it
cushions.
as
Yes,
far
no
away from them
cushions.
as possible.
Oh, that is effed up. And I don't know if that deserved the only F bomb we'll get. So I'm going to reserve it for later.
I mean, you said effed up.
yeah. If I'm talking about the Bible, don't use the F bomb, please.
Yeah, that's why I didn't. Gotta have the respect. I still think that while he shouldn't be in the movie or whatever, I still enjoy the movie. I still enjoy him in the movie. And if he wasn't in the movie and I just watched the Nazis go get the Ark and then go eat themselves alive, how boring would that be? And again, that would have just been on that island. They would have never brought it back. Some poor family would have, been looking for dinosaurs and found an island and found an Ark instead of dinosaurs. See what I did there? Little Spielberg crossover. Word of the day, biblical hemorrhoids. Okay, so that's going to be the rest of our conversation.
Yeah. Honestly, we need to find a word of the day every time we do a thing. That's the thing.
Oh,
Now.
it's-
Hannah, this is up to you. Word of the day is up to you now.
Now,
Words of the
are
day
they
up to you.
real hemorrhoids? That's the next question.
oh,
feel
they
like
were
they
super.
are.
They were biblical,
I feel like they were.
So real, they're biblical.
biblical proportions.
No, the moment
Half of
I
our
saw
audience has left. I'm
Alfred
kidding.
Molina, the moment I saw Alfred Molina, honestly, I think we got more with biblical hemorrhoids. I'm just saying. Just saying.
It's a pain in the butt.
The moment that Raiders started and I was watching it and I saw this character go like this and turn back around, I was like, "Is that Alfred Molina?"
Yep.
Because his face has not changed.
Yep.
Not
He
much,
has the
but
same
his
face.
voice does. His voice has changed a lot because he sounds a lot different in this film than he does in
I feel
later
like
films.
they made him tap into his Spanish side a little hard in this film, especially because he is an English actor, even though his ethnicity is like, half Spanish. He's Spanish and Italian.
Well, let's look at
he's-
John Reese Davies
he's-
is the same thing.
But
Like,
he's right, but he's English. And so I felt like they made him tap into that like real deep. And if you think about it, it's probably like one of his first like roles or.
Oh yeah, I think
something
it
like
is
that.
his first role ever. Actually,
Like, he
I'm
went
almost certain of it.
into it. He went deep into it. So
I will
it's-
double check though. I think John Rhys Davies is an interesting actor for the same reason because he's an English actor, in that they make him into an Egyptian Arab, which is not amazing.
Well, I feel like if his ethnicity, because to me,
Right,
I'm
right.
like, okay, like, because when I looked at Alfred Molina, I was like, wait a second, did they dirty him up and tell him to be Spanish? I was like, wait a second.
No,
I was like,
he
what's
does
his-
have some
I
Spanish
was like,
background.
what
I
is-
think.
I was like,
Yeah.
what is his background? No, I looked it up. His dad is Spanish. His mom is Italian. So like he has. So I was like, okay,
Right.
that's. I was
And the
like,
Italian's
that's
going to work
fine.
for him there because he can have the
Yeah.
a tan and
olive
look.
skin,
Yeah,
all
exactly.
that type of stuff. But also, he has the language. I'm pretty sure just because he's English doesn't mean he doesn't,
Sure, it depends on how he's raised.
Exactly. So I was just like, all right, I gave it a break.
Now, interesting thing you said about the rating, where you felt like how graphic it was for a PG rating. 1986, Howard the Duck, also done by George Lucas.
Mhm.
Again, back to Marvel again. And the massive bomb it was, because someone asked me about it in a TikTok, and I did a brief synopsis of how Pixar changed hands the way it did because of Howard the Duck. Howard the Duck is rated PG, and it has some of the heaviest sexual connotations. We're talking about a duck with full frontal breast exposed.
Yep.
Like
In the
and
first
you
5 minutes
got,
of the
like,
film,
duck condom,
because
and
that's in the intro.
play duck, and I mean it
Mhm.
is extremely sexual. Like I
Yeah.
remember being like, wow, the duck in the relationship with the girl was kind of like suggestive. No, it wasn't suggestive.
It was
It was
blatant.
extremely
No,
blatant.
It
that
was
messed me
blatant.
up as a child.
Yeah, and that is on our list. We will be watching that movie for this show.
I didn't know what I was supposed to like at that age. I was like,
I don't
3
know
years
if the
old.
rating
What's the movie
authority
I
just
was
looked at like George Lucas being attached to a film and was like,
No. Okay, so let's
Star
go.
Wars.
Let's go back to 1986 and previous. Okay, so in '86 there were 3 ratings. There were 4 ratings technically. You had, I'm sorry, other than X, you had 4 ratings. You had G, PG, R, and then they did have NC-17, but they just called it X, not XXX. And so there was really limitations. So you basically went, okay, is there enough violence and language to call this R? No, PG. And that's just how they did it.
Yeah.
And that's why all of these are Raiders or
I mean, but also,
Crusade
if you
might
think
be
about Howard the
PG-13.
Duck, I mean, things are different now. Like she had no nipples, so it's one of those things where it's like I think that probably would have like lifted the
Mhm.
lifted the rating because it was just like it was enough that it was like
PG-13,
shielded.
yeah.
It was like shielded in a way, but then like people could still understand like what it was and get it. So, but I'm pretty sure if she had like nipples, it'd be a problem.
I think that if the rating system had from like 87 or 89 or whatever it started getting PG-13 regularly, had that started in 80, most of our favorite movies from the 80s, Ghostbusters, Indiana Jones, Howard
Probably
the
would've
Duck,
been rated R.
would have been rated
Probably
at least
rated R.
PG-13.
Yeah, at least.
No, if they would have been
were
rated
you-
R,
were
they
you
would have
saying,
been
like-
rated R. They would have been
Well,
able to do that.
No,
then.
I think they would have been able to do that. Then.
Well,
yeah.
I missed what you said because I was looking up the rating for Last Crusade. Did you say that like if they would have had nipples on the duck?
Yeah.
They did.
Did she have
like,
nipples? I don't
Oh,
remember.
it
now I'm
had-
gonna look it up. This
it-
is
it
terrible.
Yeah, and I
was-
gotta look it up too.
This is terrible.
I remember used to going to the comic book shop, or not the comic book shop, the costume shop, and there was always those fake breasts like way in the back where I wasn't supposed to go, and then you could like see it off the corner, and it was like that. They just spray painted them white, and then they had feathers like surrounding them. I kid you not, like it is nipples and all.
I'm gonna see if I can get this in just a few.
And now the internet is searching up duck nipples, which is the last thing I'm going to be noticed for.
It is what we are looking up. That is for sure. Oh yeah. Oh, those are really there. Yep. Yep.
There's no like I literally you know what the reason why? Because nobody saw this movie in the theaters. Everyone saw it when it went straight to TV.
It's like
We all
watching a
saw the
train wreck.
edited version. We saw the edited version.
Right.
Most of the stuff that we don't realize was in this film. And here's the weird part. This was supposed to have been an animated film. And Universal Studios pushed this to be live action.
Are you saying she would have
Yeah.
still had nipples if it was an animated film?
That's what I wonder. Like, what was George
Honestly,
Lucas's
I
thinking
don't-
if this
I
is the
don't
mindset they had in it?
Maybe
Who
not.
gave George
Maybe not.
Lucas keys to the Marvel Kingdom in the first place? Okay, that's all
He
I gotta
paid
know.
for him with
I know.
cash.
I know. He had money back then too. He was throwing money around left and right to make movies.
Yeah, until this movie.
Until that movie. No, but here, okay. So here's the thing I'm going to say about George Lucas, and I appreciate everything George Lucas has done for the industry, for ILM, for pushing
And
forward
I'm
movies.
sorry for anybody who looked that up.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Well, if you chose to, that's an
Yeah.
adult choice. But I have to say, I want to say George
I don't
Lucas
lie.
is.
It's hilarious that she has nipples. I think that's
It is.
hilarious. I want to watch this again now.
George Lucas is an amazing producer. And I think he has great story concepts, but I don't think he's a great writer. And I think Lala's points to these films as being kind of quick, cheap writing. I'm not going to disagree with that. Because if you look at the Star Wars films, they have the same kind of feel. And then every other one of George Lucas's films are not well written. Again, no offense, dude. Just that's my take. When you have people like Lawrence Kasdan coming in and helping up the screenplay, I think that helped. You have people coming in for like Empire Strikes Back when you have Irvin Kershner directing with George Lucas or Steven Spielberg directing with George Lucas. I think you get elevated George Lucas. But when George is out on his own, he makes things like Howard the Duck.
Sometimes people are better with collaborators.
Right.
You know
I think
what mean?
George is
Lost
great with
movie.
collaborators. I think he is an amazing collaborative
People are better with
artist.
collaborators,
But
and some artists need to realize that and not be like, I can do this thing on my own. Right. But also, I want to just comment on Darthman 8. He said, beware. I think it's a guy. So beware, there is a Star Wars fan here. Honestly, Darth, we're all Star Wars fans here. And if you're, I say a true fan can say when something about their favorite thing is lacking.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. No, I'll rate the Star Wars films fairly because
can't keep anything, but I feel like being a fan doesn't mean you overlook some of their like lacking. You should be able to talk about it and still be like, I still love this thing.
Well, it's like this. George Lucas, like Star Wars was a labor of love for George Lucas after like a very serious accident for himself, and it kind of like was something that spanned over a long time. George Lucas was great for Star Wars for the original trilogy, and I think he was grasping when he did like the special editions. I like the prequels. I do. I don't. You know, I have problems with them, but overall, I like them. I think they're great to be part of the saga. Where I find is it's difficult is when someone is something so good at one specific thing, and they think that they can do anything else. That's a problem because sometimes someone's good in their own niche. They're not necessarily good in somebody else's. So I feel like that's where we get with Lucas a little bit.
I think the prequels would have done well had he written them and produced them and had somebody else direct the second and third ones. I think he did okay with the first one.
Also, I think if he wouldn't have depended on CGI with them, he would have done much better.
I agree with that. He felt like he needed to get away from Yoda, probably because when he made Episode 1 Yoda, it was not good. And he realized how bad he wanted to stay away from those types of things. But yeah. So yeah, we have, we'll be critical of probably the whole series, but we're critical of even the movies we love on here. We will be somewhat critical of them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're going to give every movie a fair chance though, at the same time. Well, there's one
every
movie I won't
deserves to be watched except for like one or two.
There's one movie I won't give a fair chance. And the three of us have never seen this film, which is hilarious. There's only one person that has, and that person's not here tonight. So we don't have to talk about
it. And I also like my thing is I like for movies like Licorice Pizza, I will never give it a chance because I do not think that there's any value in that the concept. I get that it's supposed to be like really artistically done, but I don't care. I just
the name throws me off.
Grooming in any form is unnecessary and stylizing it doesn't make it any better for me.
So it's about an adult and a teenager, female adult, male teenager. And it's making it okay.
Darthman, I'm going to say this right now. Dragon Ball Evolution is worth one watch, so you can hate it, and even Last Airbender, like that way you can relentlessly make fun of them afterward.
I feel like some bad movies are in the ether in which we should all be introduced to, because it gives you a sense of community with other people that don't like it. Right. So I feel like if you've never seen, listen, The Last Airbender is hands down one of the worst movies to ever grace cinema. I'm sorry, hands down one of the worst.
If you separate it from the source material, do you really agree with that?
Yes.
If you completely separate it and do not fathom the show at all, you think you don't think Zombievers is worse than that?
No, 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 no. I'm not saying it's the worst thing ever. I'm saying it's one of the worst.
Okay. Because I think the
that's
production
what I'm
quality
saying.
is still high. The acting's still good.
It's terrible. But what I'm saying is like I watched that film. I actually own that film on DVD, and um, it's terrible. But I'm a part of a community that we get to hate it together, and that's beautiful.
I'm an
And I feel like
unapologetic M. Night Shyamalan fan. Unapologetic.
Let me say this. Let me say this. I went into
when he hits, but when he doesn't, Lord have mercy, he doesn't.
I went into Last
That's fair.
Airbender not watching any of the source material. I went in blind, which not a lot of people can say that.
I did too.
Very true.
And I didn't like it, but I didn't think it was like the worst thing ever. Then I went back and checked out the source material, and now I understand where people have a problem with it. I think that's understandable. And it's like this. There are people who will hate on something and they will give you no reason why. Those people are toxic. There are people that will critique anything they can possibly find just because they don't like a person or like the director or something. Those people are toxic. You can dislike something based off of its own merits. But if you and I feel that way about some things, and then I can turn around and be like, but go watch it for yourself because what I don't like, you may like.
I try to tell
It
people that
doesn't
all the
necessarily
time.
mean, yeah.
So
we should probably rate because we got 2 more movies.
we do have 2 more movies, and what's nice about these is they do kind of blend in a nice way, so it's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can rate. That's fine. I might touch back on this film a little bit more just because I do love it so much compared to the other
I
two.
love it. You love it.
Yeah, no,
I
really
really do.
It's
I love that you love it.
it's
I
in
love
my
the
top
sparkling-
100 films ever made. So
sparkle in your eye. You know?
I don't really get that sparkly about these older movies, do I?
Yeah, you know, and I love it. I love to see it. You know.
I'm gonna rate this a 10, just because of the nostalgia. Like I said, I cannot avoid just loving 12-year-old me's 12-year-old me's rating carries just by default. I could be critical. I could rate it lower at 7 or 8 just because of things we've talked about. But I think because we've had that discussion, I don't feel the need. 10. Go ahead, Mr. Marlite.
This is not my favorite movie in the saga of, and I say saga because there is a 4th film that we shall not speak of. And the only reason why I like that 4th film, a portion of that 4th film, is because of this movie. And I do have to say that there are a lot of fun elements in this. There's a lot of tropes that have come from this film, and I feel like this film it is a classic in the sense of other films of the same genre are pretty much going to be taking inspiration from this film. And so, there are a lot of like things. There are a lot of problematic stuff. Absolutely. Do I really, and we've been saying it directly, but like, I would rather just say it this way, but do we like the idea of like more Yahtzee content? Back then we were hating socialism. We were hating communism. This was right around the time when we had the whole Reagan, Boris Yeltsin take that wall down. So of course, that was the mindset of America at the time, and it makes perfect sense. And so, yeah, I would rate this probably a 7. It's definitely worth a watch. I will probably go back and watch it. It will be one of those movies that I will recommend. Like I will sit down with my son at some point, but he's 7. So probably more when he's like 12 or 13.
Yep, because it should be PG-13. Yeah. Totally.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Like I was literally I was screening. The reason why I even know about the Duck Nips was specifically because I was watching it to see whether I wanted my kid to see it. Because I remember the innuendo, and now I'm like, yeah, he'll be probably like 17 when I recommend us watching that together, and hopefully we'll have a real Howard the Duck movie before that. But yeah, 7 for me. As a kid, I loved it. It was Indiana Jones. It would have been a 9. See, for me, 10 is always going to be Temple of Doom, because that was my first introduction to him, and I loved. What was it, Short Round?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. You can't. And mind you, the kid was going through like PTSD after that movie. So
I think everybody to some degree, that movie put people through the ringer. You could tell by what they had to go through just to make the damn thing. Lala, what is your rating of Raiders of the Lost Ark?
So, I will probably never partake in this film again. I bought this movie. I bought the bundle off of Vudu because I couldn't bootleg it. So, I own all 4 of these movies for all time.
Oh, you own the 4th one. I'm so sorry.
No,
You might
whenever I
like the
put these
4th
out,
one.
out on, I like Shia LaBeouf, but I was just like, it's not making me. These 3 films did not make me want to watch the 4th. So,
And if you didn't like these, you will not like that one. It's the same stuff, but like not
Okay.
as well done.
Can we just say, um, um, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, and Last Crusade. I'm getting too old for this crap, and it's like we get to the 4th movie, which I won't even mention it by name. He is too old for this crap, and I have no faith in the next movie.
He's
Literally.
beyond the grave on this one. Like, yeah. Like this should be called Indiana Jones and One Foot in the Grave. Like that's what it should be called.
I was reading up on stuff. Supposedly, I forget Frank Marshall or somebody wanted Shia to take over.
Yeah,
He
I
didn't
heard
want,
that.
like to take over as like the new lead, but then I think Lucas came through. No, I think Lucas wanted it, and then Lucas was like he retracted pretty much. Was like there's no like Indy without Harrison, and I was like, but you wouldn't have made him Indy. You would have just made him his
Indy's
character, his son, and he would have just taken like whatever. But it's fine.
Liam Hemsworth, I think, would be a great Indiana Jones. I'm just saying.
No gracias.
Anyway, what's your rating?
I'll never watch this film again. And
So that means it's below a 6.
Below a 6. And I will I will probably recommend it to people who I feel will probably like this type of film. I wouldn't like just because I don't like it doesn't mean somebody else wouldn't like it. And I wouldn't tell them like, hey, you might enjoy, young Harrison Ford, even though brother was fine throughout that whole movie. 1, 2, and 3. I said by the 3rd one though, I was like, "Ooh, he's becoming the Harrison we know now." But like, he was still cute. I was like, he's still cute.
So you didn't even like the like kissing scene where he was like, "It hurts here." You didn't like that scene?
I thought it was cute. Hold on, let me back it up. I thought it was cute, but they didn't establish anything for me to care how cute it is. I was just like, I don't. But it was cute though. I'm like, that's cute writing. She's like, well, where don't it hurt? Because he was complaining, and then it was just super cute. She's like, here. And he was like, well, here. It was like, oh, well, here. I was like, that's super cute. I would love for that to happen to me in real life, but you two don't care. I give it a 5, and the only reason it gets a 5 and not a 4 is because it gave me content for YouTube. I will never watch this again in my life.
Okay. Lala, I'm going to be honest with you. As a married man, because I grew up watching these movies, that has happened. Like,
I love it. I love it so much.
I'm with you there.
I love it so much.
All right, so let's
Because I watched it, I might be the Indy in a situation where I'm like, I might do that. So yeah.
My Alexa decided to talk, and I didn't like that, so we're gonna. I muted him.
I'm
gonna do the pre-review, and then we can. Okay, Alexa, stop. I'm gonna unplug that robot in just a second. So
nice to her.
we're gonna do the pre-review, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna hit both the other films. Temple of Doom is up next. In the meantime, this is Sean with the pre-review.
How's it going, Real Study viewers? I'm Sean, and I'm back with this week's pre-review. Now, this week we don't have much, so first, let's start off talking about Netflix is bringing us Marmaduke. Now, Marmaduke is, of course, the Great Dane that started off as a comic book strip. I believe it was attached to the Peanuts comic book strip, and just took on a life of its own, and we've seen many Marmaduke movies and everything, but this is an animated one coming out by Netflix that will tell the tale that a trainer believes he can have Marmaduke in the Westminster Dog Show. So, if you got kids, this one should be fun. Do I even need to say how excited I am for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? Let me tell you why I love Marvel. Because they tell a story that I want to hear. I did not think that I could feel the hype that I had when Endgame came out. And then I got Spider-Man No Way Home. And Spider-Man No Way Home led me to just being so excited for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This movie is going to be awesome. I know people are worried that we've seen so much in the trailer. I don't think we've seen a bit of it. I don't think we've seen a quarter of what we're going to get from that movie. And not to mention all the great stories. We all love Wanda. Doctor Strange is one of my favorite characters. And not to mention, this is directed by Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi, the guy that brought us the original Spider-Man trilogy, and so loved for his attachment to Bruce Campbell, who I hope is in this movie. Please, Bruce, be in this movie. I could go on and on. I am so excited for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This is going to be incredible. I cannot wait for us all to have seen it and have all these amazing discussions. Y'all have a great one. I'll see y'all next week.
Study. Welcome back to the Real Study. Apparently my mic didn't unmute when I tried to, but we are back, and we've got a fedora in the house.
Dora and
Indiana
my-
Jones brand as well.
That's beautiful.
I want to get his glasses, though. I love his glasses. I want to find his glasses.
So because Marvelite mentioned that this was his first viewing, the one that brought him to Indiana Jones, and his favorite, let's go ahead and get your retake or initial take on Temple of Doom.
Oh man, Temple of Doom. Like that was there are certain movies that I just quintessentially remember as a kid growing up. Back to the Future films. You've got this one. You've got, I mean, Howard the Duck on television, Enemy Mine, and honestly, like this movie terrified me and excited me at the same time. I probably have a bug phobia because of this film. I am surprised by how many people, like, I can tell if people know or have seen this film just by mentioning Monkey Table, because that it was burned in my memory as a kid.
Chilled monkey brains.
Chilled monkey brains, which is called Monkey Table, and literally, like it was like the ick factor to the nth degree. And for that, I actually liked it because I think I liked the fact that there wasn't the whole chasing after the Nazis type thing. This was more of a, something is wrong in this community. He's off going to do these things. He's trying to find these relics, and in the midst, he finds like this group that has enslaved children and has basically mind washed a mass of people. And I mean, the amount of like stress from the lowering into the lava, and Indy being brainwashed and actually being the villain and having to find a way to save him, and like in Short Round. I love Short Round in this film. Like, I mean, this was before I even saw him in Goonies, and it's one of those things where it puts you through so many different emotions. You had so many different beautiful scenes, like the way they designed it. Like you felt like you were enveloped there, and I feel like we lose that nowadays. I'm gonna take the hat off now, but you kind of lose it nowadays with like adventure films, because I think they feel a little bit too like clean cut, and they don't have that depth of being very ancient and ominous and scary, and it hit all those notes for me. So that's my initial take.
I like it. Black Girl Marvel.
I will say this one is better than the second. I mean, they're better than the first one to me. I feel like each film got a little better. And that's only because I like Short Round. I like Shorty. Shorty was my favorite character. I resonated with Shorty. I resonated with the relationship between Indy and Shorty. To me, that was a relationship that I paid attention to. Once again, he be having these random chicks in the thing that don't mean nothing, because you didn't have to come with me. Like, you knew I was looking for this antidote. Just give me the antidote and go on about your business. But like, it was, her character was just like pulled in for no reason.
I think I know the reason.
I think I do too.
Kate Capshaw was kind of getting it, with Spielberg at the time. So they kind of like, you go in the movie.
And I think that character really is us in this film.
Mm.
It's kind of pulling us in because we're the fans watching at a safe distance, and whatever happens to her, it's kind of like it grosses us and icks us out.
Yeah.
So it kind of pulls us in as much as she's annoying.
They tried their best to make her the polar opposite of Marion, whereas Marion was like this kind of capable, strong-willed, like she's clever, I'm gonna get you drunk and try to leave type of thing. Whereas this one was just like oblivious to anything that, like she was just. And then supposedly, like I was really hoping for her to become like stronger at the end. Like maybe you start this way, but then going through all these things, you end up a little bit of a stronger. And I was just like, she just didn't do anything for me. I was just like, get rid of her. I was like,
Willie is one of the most hated characters for a lot of those reasons.
I can't stand there. I was like, and then my biggest thing is, if you getting it with Spielberg, write something better for her. Like if you like this dude, it's like whatever. She got a paycheck, I guess. But
well, it tells you what Spielberg really thought about her, I guess.
I mean, I guess so. But I will say,
They're still married.
Like that. I do like I do like that. I liked everything kind of like that Mr. Marvel was talking about. I love like the ick factor of it because I felt like it raised the stakes in a way. Like it was just like it plus it took me outside of like I think it will take you outside of your comfort zone of what you're normally used to seeing on screen. So I like that. I like that like dude was eating, bugs like oysters. I love that. She was like, do you have a soup? And they gave her soup, but it had like eyeballs in it and all kind of stuff. Like everything was like from like the land type of, we eat everything like around us. And like,
we're in the jungle. We're eating jungle food. Right.
Right. And she's very Missourian, Shanghai, where like, plus her life was like glamorous. So she probably had all this good stuff. And it was just like, I really wanted I wanted that dress to burn. But anyway, because she was just clutching it. I was like, my God, we get it. It's from Paris. Like, I was just so annoyed with her character. But I will say Shorty is my favorite. I said we need to protect Short Round at all costs.
But Short Round doesn't need you to. He can do it himself.
He can do it himself. Exactly. Yes. But I also like that he was like it's kind of sad in a way because like he's a capable kid, but he's only capable because he by himself. So like it's kind of sad, but to see his relationship with Indy was just a great because it wasn't like it was like a father-son type of thing.
But it wasn't a ward thing either.
No, it wasn't. They actually seemed like partners.
Yes.
They actually seemed like they worked in tandem.
They had been through the suck together even before this film.
He didn't like look down at him. He didn't talk to him like he was a kid. He was just like, do this, move this way, take control of this. Like it was very much.
His car rig in the beginning, he had the car rigged up for his shoes. Like he was ready to go. His short legs. Like
I want to hear more of the stories with him in Short Round because they had a background.
Have loved if that's what the movie was. Right. You could have easily taken her character out and made this strictly about these two, especially since like her almost dying didn't snap him out of it, but like getting burned by Short, like
No, it was the fire that did it though, because he uses it again later on the other kids. So it's just the fire.
I said getting burned.
Yeah,
I said it. I know.
I know. I'm sorry.
In these tropes, like when you're connected to somebody, or like, oh, we have a thing because that's what they wanted you to think with these two characters. It should have snapped him out, but the fact that wasn't a thing that they even put together, I was just like, what's the point of her? I wanted her to die. I wanted her to fall.
You wanted to have her heart ripped out?
Yes, that would have been a magnificent ending to her character. But yeah, so like, I mean, like I said, this one, I felt like this one was better because of the ick factor and because of Short Round. Like you actually had a character in there that I like kind of clung to and I related to. And then also the stakes in this one were just different. It was just like, it was an impoverished town, even though each of these films, I know it's an 80s movie and I'm just, I'm thinking way ahead of my time because of these things, but every time they got a person of color on screen, they're so impoverished. It's just so annoying to watch. Because in the first one, all the people that were of color, all the men that were of color were like pirates. And then this one, they were all like impoverished and you got like child slavery and they're all people of color. I'm just like, yo, like, I was just like, all right. And then it was annoying because in the beginning, when she came on screen, she was speaking Chinese. And I'm like, sis, you got this white girl like speaking Chinese. And then I was like, ugh. I was just like, kind of like, but like I said, I like the ick factor. I like Short Round, even though his name is Short Round. But anyway, I like Shorty. I thought that he was a very capable kid, which you don't see many of those like anymore.
He was
And
my favorite part of the show, the movie.
he was my favorite part of the whole movie. I think
Yeah.
that's the reason why I liked it, because he was in it from like start to finish, and they didn't like tuck him to the side because he was a kid, and they like he felt like he was one of the adults in it, even
Well,
though he wasn't.
There were even
I like
shots of
that.
him standing behind Indy doing the same stuff. Like
Doing the same
they were
stuff.
mimicking
Like
each
when
other,
they
you know.
when the Indy just kept getting stabbed by the voodoo doll, and I was just like, somebody help bro out, because dang, he just keeps getting stabbed. You saw the correlation between their fighting. Like
Right.
one was up here, one was here, and they were like the fighting. They were like, and then he was beating up grown men, like karate chopping them and
Running
kicking
and
them,
like jump kicking him. Yeah.
it was. I felt like, and then it was like, to me, I was like, okay, you made a capable character like that, but you can't make none of the women capable. I was just like, it doesn't make sense. But I liked
Now
the bit of
they
it.
do
If this
kind
film
of
would've been done
change that a
now-
little in the next movie, a little bit. That trope gets
If-
switched up a nice amount.
If
So.
this film would have been done now, I think there would have been less stereotypes. But I also believe that Short Round would have deserved his own film at this point,
A
because
spin-off?
there absolutely, like, what has he done since?
If this movie was recreated, there would not be a woman. They would have left this as like a buddy type of me and my friend, or they probably would have switched it to like me and my like son made war son type of thing, and then it still would have worked to me. It would still would have been nice because it would have had some heart in it to me, and I think that's what Raiders was missing for me. I didn't feel heart in it to me, and if I don't feel your heart, I can't care. And I felt like, to me, Raiders didn't have heart. This one had heart because of how much Shorty loved Indy and was really willing to help him and really be there for him. I just love that. I love the dynamic in their relationship. So.
This movie moves a lot faster in some ways than Raiders 2, because before you know it, you're out of Shanghai and you're already crashing in the most ridiculous raft flying sequence in all of movie history. That part still bugs me. It bugged me even when I was a kid. But other than that little raft sequence where I swear they should have fallen out and died, almost every other part of this movie I like, and most people don't like this movie. Hey, it's Will Wilkins. How you doing, sir?
Oh, Wilkins.
It's just interesting to me because this is one of the more hated films of the bunch. I would say the second most hated film, because Crystal Skull is the most hated. And I never understood quite why. I mean, we could talk about stereotypes. This movie is loaded with them. The Indian stereotypes are fairly terrible. But again, we are talking about the 1930s, and modern India is not quite the same as 1930s India, just like any other place would be a little different to some degree. So I think there's a somewhat of an aspect of a historical nature here that we're got to take in mind.
As annoyed as I am with it, I understand
Right.
like why it is. I'm just annoyed by it.
Agreed. And in this one, I felt it even more than in Raiders because the stereotypes are even more over the top. Now, they did
That's funny, 'cause
say
I'm the
that
exact opposite. I love this
See,
film.
what's interesting is that the village, the thing that happens to the village is because of magic. They aren't impoverished normally. They even show at the end the whole place is regrowing like almost immediately. The stone was taken, and that's why they're impoverished. Now the trope is still true. They're still impoverished people of color, so that's a problematic thing. But at least it's not because they weren't already. They were doing fine on their own until bad guys came in. Right? That's
that white savior trope too, because like Indy came in and
right.
saved the day. It's just like, but again, it's the year in which this movie, like the year in the plot that it takes place, and then the fact that this is a movie that came out in 1989.
Right.
Now, didn't this film like take place in India?
So it does take place in India in 35. So here's the I had a thought and now it's disappearing from me. So this movie requires Indiana Jones, while Raiders of the Lost Ark doesn't need him at all. So this one you could not have it without him because there's almost like a fate thing going on.
Kind of prophetic.
Yeah,
because
they said, "Oh yeah, you landed here for a reason." He's like, "No, we crashed here." He's like, "Yeah, no, you landed here for a reason, dude."
landed here to help us. But
Yeah.
I like that Indy's a person who helps. Like one, his drive is always like finding something new and like helping get things back to where they need to be. Like, hey, that's his first drive. He loves the mystery. He loves like getting dirty and climbing into things. But I love that he likes to help people too, and I think that was a nice a nice switch up of seeing it, you know, like just be like, I want to help. Whereas in the first one, it was like, I'm contracting you as the government to do this thing. Whereas in this one, he could have easily walked away and been like, no, we just need to get to like New Delhi and get up out of here. But he was just like, these people need our help. And so I'm going to go help them. And I like that aspect of his character. So
Fair. Will, I would encourage you to go back and watch the first half of the show where we go pretty in depth on whether or not he should have been in the film, because I was with you and I am no longer with you, unfortunately. I think it's been pretty well established.
Changed his mind.
She did, because she reminded me of something I wasn't thinking about that literally means that he doesn't. It's unfortunate, but yeah. Anyway, the visceral factor. You guys kept saying how kind of the gross factor. I think visceral is the word I would use, because it felt like you could easily be there and experiencing the bugs and the slime and the blood and the sweat. Everything felt dirty. Everything felt sweaty. It felt hot. Like when you're in those fire pit scenes, it feels warm when you're there. So I
will I will not walk into a dark room because of this movie.
Elaborate, sir.
When she finally opens the gate and she's walking in and she hears the crunching noise, and then they put the torch down and you can see like all of the like the roaches or what the whatever. I one time since watching this film, I did that, and we were in an apartment building and I stepped on a bug, and I will never do it again. Like it is ingrained. I have such a phobia for bugs. I cannot tell you, and I feel like this movie is because of it. So just how it is.
Yeah, I love that for you. Yeah.
Just like Child's Play ruined me on the My Buddy doll.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can never have those.
I don't think I got.
I had one. My uncle didn't like it. My uncle didn't like it, so he played Child's Play for me, and I put that doll down and never picked it up.
That's terrible.
That's traumatizing.
I love my uncle though.
Do you though?
I was literally going to ask the same question. It's like, do you though? No, I'm kidding, of course.
No, because my uncle did that kind of stuff. Like he was trying to be the dad I didn't have, and I loved his rough and tumble ways. So
that's fair.
Yep,
totally fair. Do you like that these three films, because they all do this, touch just slightly on the supernatural? So like, Indy doesn't believe, which is funny because by the time we even see him in Raiders, he should believe. He saw the Shankari stones do the trick. Why doesn't he believe the Ark of the Covenant can exist if the Shankari stones are capable? And then even then, he doesn't believe in the Holy Grail to some degree.
Right.
It's kind of interesting.
That doesn't make
Yeah,
it makes sense for his character.
A little bit. Well, but every other thing he's encountered is just a rock in history. Like, you know.
Well, if the Shankari stones exist, then does the biblical ark exist? Like, there's so many conversing religious tropes that if this one doesn't work, but then this one has the idea of being the sole religion, then does that mean it exists? And if that's the case, and then this is the case, then okay, the Old Testament and then these other religions, then what does that mean about the Holy Grail and Christ? So it's like, I almost have like the idea, like, it's like, okay, how many of these things could possibly be real in the same world? Like, how does that work?
4,
you know, yeah,
at least 4. But even like the cross of Coronado that he gets in Last Crusade is not powerful. It's not magical in any way. It's just a cross. It's not just a cross. I don't mean it that way, but it is a cross that just is a museum piece. So most of the things in Indiana Jones's world are not magical or spiritual. It's only these 3 items that he's encountered. Let's see. Will said he actually gives a reason here. First, he said it's too bad he wasn't here. He says almost everything happens the same way, but now the island becomes a death trap because yes, okay, so I did mention that. I kind of joked at how it would be kind of like a Jurassic Park island, but with the Ark of the Covenant instead. Families encountering this terrible Ark.
That's a problem that's not Indy's problem. Like, it doesn't. The story still happens regardless. Like,
right, but the government doesn't get the Ark back. That's the only thing that Indy has a hand in. We get to put it in a safe place, or Warehouse 13, as you so mentioned, because of Indiana Jones. If he wasn't there with Marion, they wouldn't have brought it back. So
That's fine. You can cash out the time, but continue.
okay.
Continue. Speak.
So no, you're good, Will. That's what
Don't shut up.
we're
We don't
here.
want you to
We
shut
want
up.
the chat to say as much as we say in as much as we can. We're supposed to be interactive, so no worries. There were no main Indiana Jones characters because the other two films that kind of cap this film both have Sala and Marcus Brody, and kind of the museum crowd. This one is literally he's happens to be in China, and we don't even know. And we don't even know who the guy that gets killed in the beginning is. Again, another character.
That he has a history that we don't really know about the history.
But they've obviously had a big history. He's like, I die first, Indy. He says, like that's.
I do the adventure first, or the unknown mysterious adventure first. Yeah. Again, they do that lazy writing thing where it's like you bring in a character that you say has like a connection to him or some type of longevity, but we don't know what that is. You know, it's just like we just have to believe that they have this connection, and it's just like I don't like. Give me a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, Will says it right. Temple of Doom is a bubblegum or a popcorn movie. It's you're.
I mean, it's a standalone film. You can pluck this out because the first one and the third one like cap each other in a way, and then the middle one is just kind of like there.
Right.
You know. So.
Agreed. What about the minecart sequence? What did you think of that, Lala?
I wasn't a fan. I mean, I enjoyed because here's the thing: I've seen so many like minecart things in my life that I know that they got that from like Indiana Jones, obviously. Like I watched this and was like, oh, this is what they all referenced when I've seen these other things be done, and that's. Here's the thing: if I'm gonna take away anything from these Indiana Jones films, thank you for giving me things that I like in other things. So, like,
yeah, absolutely.
Don't like it in yours. Thank you for giving people the inspiration to be like, I'm gonna copy that and maybe put a little twist on it, but I'm gonna copy it, and I like it on other stuff. But it was for the time, it was great. 1989. I'm like, for the time, it was great. I do feel like it went on too long. To me, this scene is the Batman equivalent.
That last hour of Batman.
Like, yeah, I was like, you could just give me, you could just shred like 10, 15 off of this, and it would still have been an exciting, but it was just like, Lord, how okay, and then you add water to them. I'm like, what are we doing?
Okay,
like,
I hate the water part. That's the one thing in that whole sequence that bothers me, mostly because they go over a huge pit of like lava that's way down, like hundreds of feet down. And then that amount of water is supposed to not just go down there and like what?
Exactly.
Yeah,
and like dry up.
Yeah.
It's Minecraft.
I was just like,
I know, but I don't know, man. That's the one thing that bugs me. And Minecraft is totally Indiana Jones.
Look at you thinking about it. It's like,
man.
Oh
anyway.
Yeah, it was just
Changed
too
my
much
life.
for me. They could have cut that scene. It was a lot.
What about the bridge scene though? The bridge scene is epic. Like I love the bridge scene at the end. I think that's
once again, Xena Warrior Princess did it better. I'm just saying, like, but it was still a good scene because I liked again. It was still a good scene because look, it showed the connection again between Indy and Short Round. He talked to him in Chinese, and then Short Round was like, "Yo, lady, like, buckle up, we about to go for a ride." So to see that connection, I was like, I like that about the scene. Now, do I like that her and Short Round was just standing there screaming Indy where they could have climbed to the top? I'm like, what are we doing? Why y'all just standing here? Like, I didn't understand that, but like I said, I enjoyed that connection. They showed a little more of the connection. So
yeah,
no, that's
but Xena did it better. Did it way better. So.
I don't know. I like the moment when she asks if he's crazy. He's like, no, he's nuts.
Yeah,
I love that subtle distinction between two identical words in almost every way.
I always also loved how Indy showed more concern for Short Round than he ever did for the girl.
Oh yeah.
Ever.
Look at the way he loaded her on the elephant and was like, "Let's go, we're going."
Honestly, if you go back to Raiders of Lost Ark, I was like, "What is this Twilight?" Like because whenever Edward tried to like protect Bella, he did a scene where he pushed her and made her bleed even worse than what she was already bleeding, and Indy just kept pushing Marion out the way, like, "Get out of here!" Like,
right.
I was just like, "What are we?" Okay, you're so forceful.
And of course, one of my favorite things is the whole camp scene.
Oh, that's a
Like,
great scene. Just
that is
playing off
just
her fears.
classic. Yes, and everybody tries to repeat it, but that's the thing. Like you say, like Lala, you're saying like what was it?
Xena did it better.
Xena did it better. I don't think there's ever been a film that has used that trope with the camp scene, everything going bad, that has been better than that scene in
Challenge accepted. I will find that scene.
because like
I love that
kind of
nobody
close.
notices but her. That's what makes it so great.
Yeah, it's kind of close to the whole what was it? Land of the Lost with
Yeah.
like that was funny, but just the fact that it was like one thing after another for her, that's
like,
always been
you
one of my
like-
favorites.
Like the Will Ferrell one. I don't like him
Yeah.
as a comedian, so that I will.
I'm
I
with
won't
you there.
agree to that. I will say that this scene was way better than. I didn't even have seen Land of the Lost because he was in it, so that's not even a thing.
Oh, but Danny
I will
McBride
say-
makes up for it.
I
Oh
will
yes,
say, I will say I do. I'm sorry, Muncie.
I love Danny McBride.
I will say though that campfire scene, I liked it because Spielberg liked the actor that played Shorty so much that he let him and Harrison improvise that scene where it's like, no, you cheated, no, that was all improvised. So I like that.
Yeah.
I like that scene.
Yeah.
So
Ki Hugh Kwan, I believe, is the way you say his name.
they list him as Jonathan Kwan, like Jonathan Key Kwan, but then the movie put his actual name.
You mean the end credits?
Yeah, his actual name. I love that it was like they put his actual name. So I was like, that's cool.
So
Night night, Ray. Thank you for coming by.
thank you for stopping by. Bye. I think we should rate this, and we should move right into Last Crusade, so we can give it a nice half an hour. Mr. Marvelite, give me your rating for Temple of Doom, or anything else you wanted to say about it.
No, I mean, listen, I know there are problematic things in all of these films, but there's something like, it's funny though, because when I first watched this film, I actually didn't even see the beginning part. When I was younger, like I only saw from the plane on. And so it wasn't until maybe 2 or 3 years after loving this film, because of course you watch it on television and you don't get to always see it when it premieres. Right. And I remember like, I actually got a TV guide once and was like, oh, I'm going to watch this. And then I saw the whole first part. And it blew my mind. Like there was a whole big thing.
Yeah. Muncie, did you ever even have flip television? I got to know that. I got to know.
There was like TV guide. And then there was also the TV television. Like you had to like wait till it scrolled to the channel that you were on. And if you missed it the first time because somebody caught your attention, or you were paying attention to the little preview in the box of it, you had to like sit through that whole thing again.
Yep. Yeah, I had that TV, but I didn't have it for long though, so that was nice. But I had that TV.
Never had that TV. I'm so jealous. But yeah, I just it's my favorite Indiana Jones film of all of the movies. It's going to be an 8.5 for me.
8.5. 8.5. Yeah. Lala, what's your rating?
This film is better than the first one for me. Shorty takes the cake for me. If I ever watch this film again, which I won't, it will be for Shorty. It would be for, I would just like, but what I can do is go on YouTube and be like, give me all the scenes with Short Round, and I'm pretty sure somebody has made that video.
I hope.
What do you hope, sir?
I hope that whatever significant other you happen to have in the future has never seen the Indiana Jones trilogy. I hope that for you.
Why would you do that to me?
Just so you might have to watch them one more time. I think you should watch these again in 10 years. Just once. One more time in 10 years and then call it good. Even if your significant other's like, nah. So anyway.
I'm going to put this out there right now.
Oh, well, Wilkins says you can see him in everything, everywhere, all at once.
Yes, there's that as well.
Yeah, I saw him in that. He was amazing. I thought he was amazing. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna put this out there because I'm not trying to say we won't be, but people do drift, things happen, and blah blah blah. If me and you are still friends,
I'll bring it up.
10 years. I promise you that I will watch these movies.
We should watch party them in 10 years if we're still friends and hanging out.
I agree. Okay. I agree.
That's a 10 years from now.
As long as it doesn't do the whole Big Bang Theory where like I'm the only guy like Stuart that's like trying to figure out where everybody is. Like, oh crap.
I know, right? No. You won't be back. That's Brian. He's never here. No, I'm just playing.
Oh, and by the way, we miss you, Brian. If you're in here at
We
all,
are.
Right.
We
later
do.
on.
We wish we could hear you talk about the cinematography of these films.
I mean, I will say this though, there were some beautiful scenes. I will say that because Brian's not here. I will say that there are beautiful scenes. Don't get me wrong. Just because I don't like these films does not mean that they didn't have like beautiful scenes, beautiful moments. I love their play with light, like how they bring Indy in with light most of the time. Like he's literally like shrouded in darkness, and then like they'll bring him into some kind of light or some kind of like light across the eyes, which is ironically enough, the light across the eyes, they did that in Harry Potter. So I thought that was like pretty cool too. I was like, that's nice.
So that's a 50s serial trope again. That they go back to even mystery films, and like that's been done.
So I was like, that's pretty. I was like, that's pretty cool. But for me, Temple of Doom, even though Short Round was great, I'm gonna still get this a 6.
Almost
I ain't gonna watch
rewatchable.
It's almost Shorty almost got me there. Shorty
Sure.
almost, but Kate Capshaw was the worst thing about walking in this film. So no.
All right. This is a 9 for me, mostly because I don't think it's as good as Raiders, but I still put this trilogy up really high. And again, we can continue to talk about the nuance and the problematic nature, but the nostalgia is just too damn strong for me. I can't get over the nostalgia. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, released in 1989, the seemingly last movie in the trilogy until 20 years later.
3 years after I was born, this movie came.
This movie picks up 2 years later after Raiders of the Lost Ark, and we get to see that Indiana Jones as a kid, and then we get to see him, kind of interacting with his family this time, which is, of course, unique and fun. This movie also stars Sean Connery, Allison Duty, I had to say her name, John Reese Davies,
When I was
and so on.
watching the names come up, I was like, duty.
I did the
felt
same
like a
thing.
child.
I did the same thing. So don't worry. I was just like duty. So and I'm sure she's gotten that far too much. So this film, I can't even talk today. This film, for me, was the one I think I've seen the most times, just because this came out when I was 12, and we went and saw this in the theater. We had already seen the other ones on VHS. My family loved this. And who didn't in '89 watch this along with Batman if they were old enough.
I watched it.
If they were old enough. But
I
you were
watched
2.
Batman.
You were 2
I watched Batman.
when you were 2. I saw
But I don't
Star Wars when
remember-
I was 1, but I don't think I counted. I don't know. I mean, you count.
I was
Yeah.
maybe
My kid
like,
watched Jurassic World really young, so
until I was like 5 or 6. I didn't remember like until I was like 5 or 6.
All right.
So I get you.
So this time, instead of it being Jewish mythology, now it's Christian mythology, and we're dealing with the Cup of Christ, and we are dealing with, again, same old Indiana Jones foes, the Nazis, except this time they're coming to the height of their power.
The first film, but with his daddy. Just pretty much what it is. I mean, it's not like the exact film, but
Because
it's
like in
literally,
this one, he's needed. Like he's actually needed in this one. Yeah.
same tropes. You get the Nazis again. You
Yep.
got Christian, like you got Christian mythology, you got Christian religion, whatever you want to call it. And the only difference is like you got his daddy in there. It becomes like a Taken, but with Indiana Jones.
So what did you think of seeing Connery in this film? I mean, did you think it was a nice take? You liked seeing him in this?
I think Sean Connery is one of the world's greatest actors, and so to get somebody as handsome as Sean Connery to play the father of someone as handsome as Harrison Ford, I don't think they cast him wrong. Also, I just love to hear Sean Connery talk. I wish he did book on film or something, so I could just listen to him talk the entire time. But what I do like is the difference between them as father and son. They both goofy. Don't get me wrong. They both goofy, but Indy is way more capable in this world than his father is. Right? And so like
His father's a bookworm.
the book is, but also so is Indy, but he's in this world so much that he's learned to like shoot a gun and jump over things and like defend himself, throw a punch, these things. So it was just amazing to see. Plus I was like, okay, I get it. They thought this was going to be the last film. So they showed us like his beginnings, which I thought was pretty cool, that they showed like a young Indy. He's always been like, that belongs in a museum. But what I didn't like was that his whole aesthetic is based off of a villain. And I was just like,
No,
All
I don't
right.
know. No. I don't know if I'd call that guy a villain.
Whatever
did he
was.
have henchmen? Yes. Did he work for a scummy person? Like, did he sell that thing to a kind of a scuzzy guy? Yes. But really, the inspiration to become an actual in the field archaeologist and do what he does with Marcus Brody came from the person who was doing exactly that: digging, finding the treasure, and taking to the museums. That guy was just selling to private collectors, and that's really the only difference, I think.
I don't like it. I call him a villain. I ain't like it. But I don't know.
Antagonist, I would agree with.
Okay, antagonist. I'll compromise with you. Antagonist. But I just didn't like that he got his whole aesthetic from a guy that he was trying to make right by these things. I didn't like that. So I was just like, I think that was just like weird. It was just like, you look up to this guy, you just gonna dress like him. I was like, because when I saw the guy, I was like, is that Indy? And then he lifted up, and I was like, they tricked me. And then the person was like, Indy. It was like, I was mad. I did do this to the screen when I was watching. And I was like, you tricked me. And then he was like, Indy. The boy kept saying Indy, and I was like, oh, it's like a back in the past, everything showing like the beginnings of like how he don't like snakes, but at first he wasn't afraid. But then when you get put in the
just
pit,
a snake, right?
I was like, wait a second, and then I was like, when he was in a pit full of them, I was like in a box full of them. I was like, I get the fear,
Right?
I get that that's not. What you do.
Did you like how they gave you Harrison Ford's scar?
I love the scar because when he did the whip, and I was like, and that's where so I enjoyed that because I felt like you were wrapping up a series in which you were giving us way more about the character than you ever have in the beginning of these things. So like, I love seeing that type of stuff. I also love that they made him like I'm not gonna say they made him smarter, but they just showed us how clever he was, which I was disappointed. Like when he walked into the whatever that place was, and he tried to be Scottish, and it just didn't work out that well. But I love the commitment to the character. I was like, we didn't get this from him in these other films. But again, this was released in 1989. This is getting close to the 90s type of way of like doing jokes and doing tropes. And so I was like, I get it, but I was like, it's not established that his character even does that. He's more of a like, I'll figure it out when I get there type of thing. He's not like a let me plan a little bit ahead of time. So like to see that in the third one, I was like, where did that come from?
He literally thought about it in the car though, because he looked at her outfit and took it from her.
I was like, but he's never done that before. It's more so just like, I'm going to walk in, look around, and be like, oh, hey, then this is what I'm gonna do. Like he kind of gets in trouble and figures things out when he's like in trouble.
Agreed, but I would argue that happens there, and that he always wears masks already because he already wears the professor look, which is like that's Henry Jones, if you will, or Dr. Jones. And then he puts on this like ridiculous, and he actually has two versions because even in this one, it's like a darker outfit. I don't know. It's like
Indiana Jones is just Batman because he got daddy issues, and
he is Batman.
He has two different sides of himself, and he always got some woman, but he can't seem to hold her, and they don't matter.
100%.
I get what you're saying.
100%.
I get what you're saying. But the third one, like I like it when it has heart, and the third one had heart. It had the dynamic of a father and a son. I will say certain characters I didn't need. I didn't need Marcus because he seemed like he fit in where a woman would have fit in the way that they write an unnecessary character. But I enjoy seeing John Reese Davies Davies character again. I like seeing him, even though they made him less capable in this film or something like that. It's like they regressed his character.
They chumped him.
I was like, you really? How you nerf a guy who in the first one was like he had all the connections, he knew all these things. And then it was just like he put the dude in the Nazi. I'm like, what?
Well, they were out of their element, so that's not Salah's land. Like he's in a completely different place.
I get that, but he just seemed way goofier than I remember him being. And
the whole movie is a goofier tone. Like the whole movie is up on goofy.
Because it's getting close to the 90s, and it was getting into that other like that 90s corny of like joke telling and joke doing and things like that. So like I'll be giving stuff a pass. I'm just personally for me, I was just like, I ain't a fan. True. But like I said, I like father son connection. I love that they had that moment where they talked, and he was just like, yo, he was like, I was a good father to you. I left you alone. I taught you how to be. He's like, I left you alone. I taught you how to be self-reliant. I ain't tell you to eat food. I ain't tell you to go to sleep. Like, what else you want? I'm the greatest father ever lived. And he was just like, bruh, no, you wasn't. Like, and to me, those are real father-son conversations when you have a father that's very devoted to his job, to what he does. Like, those are like real moments. And again, it had heart, so I like that in it. I still ain't like the movie, but I still
Mr. Marvelite, we haven't heard from you.
That's-
We haven't heard from you at all.
There's a reason why.
Uh-oh.
I don't like this film. Like it's my least favorite of the series. This is even my least favorite over Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And it's mainly because I don't like Sean Connery and Harrison Ford's like chemistry. I didn't like it.
I love that. I love the opposites.
Yeah, so I didn't like that. I got tired. I was tired of the Nazi trope back with Raiders of the Lost Ark. I got tired of it again for this one. The River Phoenix was a good part of it. I liked Young Indiana Jones. I thought that was done well. But honestly, and especially like, and this is again like the thing like I was talking about the Ark of the Covenant. They like completely represented it differently. And then you've got the the chalice or the Holy Grail. And it just it was the Nazis' face melting off all over again because the guy drank the cup and died.
He
and
chose
then, of course,
poorly.
Yeah, he chose poorly.
I laughed so hard. I was like, "Ain't that a meme?" I yelled it out in my reaction. I was like, "Isn't that a meme?"
It is.
And I kept thinking like the knight that was guarding the Holy Grail. I'm like did they pull him off of Monty Python? Like, did they not? Like, it just like I just didn't. It didn't do anything for me. This is honestly, I enjoyed Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and like I say, it's a movie I refuse to have said the name for, but then realizing Lost Ark I didn't like it.
Lost Ark. I mean, he just whatever. To him, it's just it's Ark 2.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's that thing. Yeah, it's like whatever. No, the Last Crusade.
Sean Connery is the only difference.
Yeah.
Now, okay. Now, again, I was going to say this. So this time, the female lead is a blend between the Karen Allen and the Kate Capshaw characters. So she's not helpless, right? But she's also not the smartest. So like she's somewhere in the middle. And then of course, she's a Nazi as well, right? And it was weird. Her name is Elsa, and that was like weird because I thought the only time I ever heard the name Elsa was from Frozen, but apparently I'm wrong.
I didn't like her character at all.
You're not supposed
to. It wasn't because no, I know we're not, but it's just like I don't like nothing for no reason. Like he don't like. I just feel like he's so smart, but he's stupid. It's just like why are you just sleeping with any woman that like winks
didn't
at you?
even listen to his dad when he was like, "Don't listen to her. Don't listen to her." He couldn't figure out his dad slept with her at that point. I'm like, come on, dude.
Listen, I was like, listen, if whenever I edit this video, I say it so many times, I go, yup, dad smashed. Dad, because she literally was like, I'll do anything for the Holy Grail. And she smashed your father, she smashed you for the Holy Grail. But it was just like
I was rushing to smash the dog that he was named after.
You feel me? Like, come on, like what are we doing? But my biggest thing about that was that he just didn't trust your father, you trust your member. And I think that was like, I just didn't like that.
But that's
like,
Indiana Jones.
It doesn't make sense because you didn't even trust her in the beginning to tell her that you had the book, and you did it for a reason, but then you slept with her and left those defenses down.
That's Indiana Jones. That's him.
That's
like
so annoying.
That's 80s chauvinism.
It is. That's misogyny. It's the patriarchy. It's all of it right there.
I hated every bit of it. I was like, okay, I get it. You slept with the girl. Did you automatically think you had a connection? I was like, God, you a simp. And then
not every hero has standards.
I was like, what? No, you don't have to have standards. You can bang whoever you want to bang. That's fine. You can do what you want to do. But we are in a stressful situation, and your father literally goes, she a Nazi. And you're like, what? How?
But the sex was so good.
Exactly. Like,
it seemed so wrong, but it felt so right.
She's a whole Nazi.
I mean, she thrashed her own room. That's how much of a Nazi she is. Like, she thrashed his and her room looking for the book, and then acted like, "Oh, I'm just listening to my record player."
Played her music. I was like, her music was not that loud that she didn't hear somebody in her room.
I would have think he would have figured that out because he puts other things together pretty quickly, and that he didn't.
And that's what I'm saying.
I'm glad Hannah got the joke. Y'all didn't get it.
What?
I'm not repeating it. I thought I did a good joke, and Hannah's the only one that got it. Hannah, I love you. That's all I'm going to say.
I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
Go back and listen to it during the podcast when it hits iTunes or Spotify.
I will do that. I'll just re-listen tonight. Let's see. We're at. I'm going to make sure.
I'm pretty sure I got the joke. I just
hour and 38 minutes. I'll have to go back to hour and 38 and check. So I'm sorry we missed your joke.
No, it's okay.
What, the Indiana Jones dog joke thing?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I thought, maybe that one was so bad it just threw me off from the other one. So I just.
Hannah, should I repeat the joke? Because I'm. It's up to you, because it could be our little secret, and then they have to go back and listen.
I was like, it's not a secret. I'll rewind soon.
Right now, I ain't going back. I ain't doing it. I ain't going back.
We will let that joke die.
It was back. Hello. Okay. So you were talking about how wrong it was that he trusted his member and blah blah blah, and it's like, or whatever else. And I was like, it was so wrong, but it felt so right.
I didn't hear the Reich. I heard you say. I thought you said right. I did not hear Reich. I didn't hear Reich. Right. Yeah, no, that's great and terrible.
Yeah. I'm happy I didn't hear that the first time, but I had to hear it another time. So here we go.
Well,
can we talk about the protectors of the Grail a little bit? These guys that were protecting it even on the outside, but they just kind of threw their bodies at anybody looking for it. Like they were just throwing themselves at anybody trying to kill them. And it seemed to just backfire on them. Like they didn't do a very good job protecting the Grail.
Biggie loved it, by the way. Biggie loved it.
Right. Oh yeah, he did. He loves it.
Biggie loved that. So you should feel some pride in that. Biggie loved that. So yeah, you got to enunciate that case out.
That right. But
honestly,
no, can we talk about the Grail protectors?
Honestly, I feel like the Mummy did it better with the protectors.
It's funny because
listen,
they were like in the background. They were like, let's just scope it out, see what's popping.
If I've been stuck somewhere for hundreds of years, I probably would just totally throw myself at something just to get it done with. Like at that point, it's like, do we really want to keep killing these people? Because like even the last Guardian, he was weary.
Yeah, he was like, here, you bested me, and he didn't do anything.
Go. Whoops, there you go. Here
no, I didn't mean the brothers. I meant the other dudes with the like. Are you talking about the dudes with
the brothers of the crossiform sword, I think, or whatever they said their name was.
Yeah, it was just like, dude was like, I'm here to save my daddy. I don't care about no Holy Grail, bro. And it's just like, you trying to kill me, and I'm just trying to save my daddy. Like, what are we doing?
Which is funny because minutes earlier he was looking for the Grail because he did the stone tablet thing and like he lied, whatever. He's Indiana Jones. I also, when they go to get on the boat when they're escaping the castle, I guess we're just going to nitpick this movie. So when they're going to get on the boat to escape the castle, and then his dad throws the thing, and he's like, no, we're not getting on the boat. We're going to take this motorcycle. Couldn't he have waited just another moment for the boat to pull away? Right? Just a little bit. Let him get out in the river and then drive away, but he just takes off. So
can I listen? The first thing I got to do when I see you, Snitty, is hug you for that comment, because I was so annoyed because when he like started the boat and it went away, his father was like, we're not getting in. I was like, I had a moment. I was like, okay, that's smart because they're going to think that. And they just got on the boat, didn't start it up, and he drives away. Bruh.
Yeah, they're still on land, man. They're still on land.
This is lazy. That's what I mean by lazy writing. 1, 2, 3. But to say it lazy.
But I think to me, there's an aspect in all the movies like this that shows that Indiana Jones is far from perfect. That a lot of, and this is why I have less problems with the newer movie, because a lot of people struggled with there's a moment, I'm going to ruin this a little bit for you, Lala, not that you care. There's a moment where he's stuck on a 1950s nuclear testing ground, Indiana Jones is. And he ends up having to crawl into a refrigerator in order to protect himself because it's lead lined and it gets shot in the air. It rolls and he gets out. What people don't like is that that's not Indiana Jones. And I'm like, you're wrong. That is 100% Indiana Jones. He is always lucky to a ridiculous degree more than anything else.
Character. That's 1, 2, and 3. Because like they will put him in like certain situations. And again, I know that there's like 4 movies and a 5th one coming or whatever like that.
The Raft.
But they would put him in certain situations, and I was just like, we know he gonna survive because that's the point of his character. Right. That's the entire point of his character. Right. Like the water in the thing, they should have died. Yeah. Okay, that water was rushing.
Did you see how CG that mountain was when he was trying to climb it?
Oh my gosh.
That's terrible.
Listen, So certain things I let go because I was like, these were made in like in the 80s and stuff like that, so the CG ain't gonna be that
Mhm.
good. Even though I still think it looks great for what it is. Even though some stuff I was like, is that? I was laughing a couple of times because it was a couple of dolls, like when they were when like the armored thing or whatever in the car was next to him, and then they blew it up. You just saw the doll bodies kind of like just flit. I cracked
In
up.
the yellow raft when it comes out of the airplane, you can tell they've strapped 3 dummies to a raft,
Yes,
and it's
because
just
it's
flipping in the
yeah,
air, right?
the
So like,
funniest
yeah,
thing.
but it works. I don't know. For me, he's not quite like Domino look, but he's sure up there. Like he is wildly up there. The guy
Like
can.
he shouldn't be alive.
No,
He's
he should be
that
alive at
lucky,
all.
right? But he is.
Honestly, like when he was in the car, I think it was. I think it was the first one. I think it was Raiders when he was in when he was in the truck and he was driving, and then the guy come around on the side and he shoots him. He should have got shot in the face, but he got shot in the arm.
Mhm.
I was like, how
And
was
not
that?
not shot, grazed.
Grace, exactly. It's like he got. I was just like, how in the world did he get shot in the face? I was like that. Uh,
As much luck as
Really
I have
worked
with
that
always
way.
falling down, Indiana gets that from me. Like he has the opposite. Like if Murphy's law had an opposite law, Indiana Jones lives by that
yeah,
law.
we call it Jones Law. That's what we
Jones
call
law.
it.
I like it.
Jones Law. Yeah.
Or the domino effect.
No, because it's
Ah.
Oh,
don't like
I'm
it. No, I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Um,
I'm just hating both today because that's where I am right now.
no,
So
it's all
just know
good.
I love you. Just know I love you.
Now, did you enjoy? Because something I think that Darth Man mentioned was that they took Connery, this classic action hero, and they nerfed the living crap out of him, made him a bookworm, and made him totally inconsequential. But then he was also able to still cause damage with birds, with his brains, with a pen, and various things.
I liked it. I liked it because Sean Connery is you. When you think Sean Connery, you think suave, you think James Bond, you think like cool, calm, and collected. You think that he can do no wrong in these films, and then to have him be the opposite of that. One, I think for an actor, I think that was fun for him to play because he didn't have to be in control. He didn't have to be the one that gets it. He didn't have to be those things. And sometimes it's freedom and being like a little dumb. It's freedom and being like a little goofy, a little. So I enjoyed that about his character. And Darthman said he had a stormtrooper who shot him. Listen, the entire all the movies, I said I know this is George Lucas because nobody can shoot him. Nobody can fight. Like they were shooting like machine guns in him, and he was just dodging them every two. I was just like, this is George Lucas.
To that
yeah.
point, though,
That's what Dorthman just said. He said the stormtrooper
yeah,
shot him.
to that point, though, stormtroopers are crack shot, even though we don't get to see that. The reason the characters never get hit is because they are Indiana Jones style heroes. They
Damn,
don't.
they
They have luck on their side. That's what most heroes have. If you think of them as role playing characters, their stats are level 20. Like they can roll all day long. They can roll threes and still succeed because their stats are so high that you can't hurt them. That's what being a hero is.
such a nerd metaphor, and I dig it so hard. That was so great. By the way,
It's the way I've always looked at movies. I've always broken down role playing in movies because to me, yeah, dexterity at 20. They just, even though they seem human, their stats are stacked and there's nothing they
yeah,
can do to prevent that. And you just have to accept that. That's why you accept that Iron Man was smart enough to prevent his brain from liquefying just due to G forces in his suit because
I
there's
mean,
nothing
he's
to
so
prevent
smart.
that.
He's so smart. You would think that that's what he would do.
Right.
So
We
you
have to
leave it.
we
So
have to
you leave
make that
it alone.
leap. So we do with his knowledge what Indy has with his dexterity and his abilities. I think.
We Joker, we are talking about Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. We are on our last film.
We're on the last Crusade.
I cannot.
Can I break the topic for a second?
Sure.
Just because
Of course you can.
one of our real study guests that we have had on the show in the past, Cat Lady JJ, has been banned from TikTok, and
What?
we're gonna have to gather together like we did for Professor Kev to get her back.
No
And
problem.
No problem at
So
all.
she doesn't know what to do. She's a little bit in shock. This happened within the last hour or so
While we've been on the show.
Yeah. So I just was pulling through on Instagram.
If you follow her, there's going to be some emails that we're probably going to want you to send to TikTok to get her unbanned.
Yes.
And we'll go from there.
Yep.
Yeah, we definitely have to do that because that's so she just been getting people who don't like what she has to say, and it's just been reporting her pretty much. I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's whatever. I mean, she never makes controversial content. She's just honest.
No, she does. She just tell her we got her back. Tell her we'll make this right.
We will definitely help.
Yeah.
I was worried you were going to say something far worse with the tone you had.
No,
That's
me
still
too.
terrible.
The tone,
But
oh
I was
my
worried
God.
that you were going to tell us somebody had died. So just be aware of
Scott,
that.
listen.
Yeah.
I realized that after I started saying what I said, and
Yeah.
I felt
He
bad.
said he was like a long time friend of the pod. I was like, you not telling me
Yeah.
this shit.
I was like,
Yeah,
is
sorry
Mike
about that.
okay? What's going on with Comic Concierge? What's going on? What did you do to my
I
people?
mean,
Yeah.
oh my God. Oof.
That said, we will definitely help with that. We should probably rate these films,
Hey,
or this film, and then the series. And then I don't think we'll ever do the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And don't anybody redeem it. Just leave it. Just let it. Okay.
no.
Just let it
Even if
be.
you lose your points because we can deny.
That's true.
reviews.
I don't think we want to review it just because we wouldn't have another Indiana Jones film to put it against, and it wouldn't work. And 4 films would have been too many. Although I guess, yeah, maybe when 5 comes out, we'll review them together or something. If. Yeah, Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
It is a lot of like a lot of memes now. Like when you watch it, you're like, oh yeah, that's a meme.
He said Indiana Jones 5 is just him on an adventure to retrieve the golden plot armor.
Darthman says 10 out of 10, perfect film. Love this film. I can watch this film solo.
Honestly,
Yeah, he's a big Sean Connery fan. So that
Indiana
makes
Jones
sense.
solo.
to me, every Indiana Jones film seems like a solo, like a standalone film. It could stand by itself.
They're supposed to. So like that's how films were made then. They wanted them to be standalone because they didn't have this like multiverse stuff that
Even though you have characters that cross between the first and the second, first and the third one, it's like you still get introduced to them in a way that you wouldn't. It's like, oh, okay, they knew each other, so it's fine. Like you wouldn't know that they were in the first film, or something like that. So.
Right. For me, this is going to be an 8. I actually think they get worse as they go too. I actually like Temple more than a lot of people, which is weird, but it's mostly that there's not a lot of new ground. It's a lot of similar jokes.
You're not gonna do it. You're not gonna do it.
The John Wick conversation? What? Oh, you mean when I can thrash on John Wick 3 terribly because it has 0 plot?
But it does.
Has 0 plot? I know, I agree.
It does. It does have plot. It does have plot. It's connected. This all happens within like a week or something like that.
No, somebody's gonna just get the trilogy on the table. I can tell.
Can't wait.
I don't think I could watch those 3 movies again. I like the first one a lot. I think that's like a solid flick. But after that, anyway, we're talking about Indiana Jones right now. Mr. Marvelite, Last Crusade. How badly do you hate this movie?
5.
Wow.
I really have nothing to say about it. And again, it's not the film's fault. It's just it didn't work for me. I think it worked for a lot of people, just did not do it for me. I don't like Sean Connery's interaction. In fact, this movie turned me off on Sean Connery for a good long while, and it wasn't until I watched The Rock with Nicolas Cage, which is really sorry. I feel bad. That's the reason why, but that's what turned me back on to watching anything with Sean Connery.
You know what, Mr. Marmalade, fight me.
No, I don't want to.
Okay, that's fine. That's your choice.
Why would he want to fight you?
Because Sean Connery is a gem. No matter what he does, what is wrong with you?
Have you seen League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was magnificent.
Have you seen Rising Sun?
And even he knew at that point it was over. But like, it's not the film's fault. It's not even Sean Connery's fault. It's just I didn't like the chemistry. I didn't like the fact that he was named after a dog. I didn't like the idea that just the fact that
you were named the dog. I love that.
It's the same. Maybe it started with this, but I hate the trope of the successful son who's always being reminded of how pathetic he was as a kid by his father, who obviously doesn't have any approval. And then finally at the end we get that, oh, I'm proud of you. And I don't think that's what that was.
That's my life, so that trope doesn't bother me. I spent my whole life
growing up.
Yeah, I spent my whole life looking for my father's approval, and when I was an adult, he told me he was proud of me. So I got to go with that trope.
I don't know though, because I just think his father was just like, I don't think his father looked at him as a disappointment. I think he just didn't look at him. You know what I mean?
That's a fair point.
Because I didn't feel like he was just like, oh, how dare, like he killed a man in front of him, and he was like, do you know what you just did? Like he doesn't know who his son
I can't believe what you just did.
And what he does, I
But that
don't
makes
think
it even worse because that's also the same thing. The reason why I hate Honey, well, why I dislike a major portion of Honey I Shrunk the Kids, because Rick
Well,
Moranis is completely oblivious as a father and
I
treats his
definitely get
children
that.
badly. Like it's that maybe it's
Yeah.
because I didn't have a dad and I had an expectation of what fathers were like, and
No,
yeah,
I'm not
it bothered me.
justifying his character like he's a great guy. He just didn't pay attention to his son. That's still bad. I'm just saying I didn't see it as him being like you're terrible. You're bad at what you do. He just didn't know him enough to even have that assessment. But then you almost lost him, and now you're like, I could have.
I'm just saying the film would have been so much better if they would have just stuck with River Phoenix for the whole film.
No, I'm good.
And we would have had just young Indiana Jones
Real quick.
that whole film. Like, yeah.
On that
Yeah, that's
note,
it.
did you know that Sean Connery was only 12 years older than Harrison Ford? So them being father son is a little ridiculous, but that's okay.
No, very much so. But
Let's
Sean
face
Connery,
it, Sean got around.
Connery, I looked it up. I think Sean Connery at that time was like 59 or something.
Yeah, but that means
And
that
I was like,
Harrison
I was
was in
like-
his 50s or was in his
No.
late 40s.
when I was like, I think he was 59, and I was like, but he could do this, but they're not letting women pass a certain whatever.
Yeah.
It's like whatever. Did you want to give your rating, Smitty?
Oh, yeah. No, I did. 8. I said 8.
Oh, you said 8? Oh, I
Yeah,
didn't
10,
know you said
10, 9, 10, 9, 8 is the way I rate them.
Oh, okay. Like I said, I like Sean Connery, and Sean Connery is the only reason I'm giving it this number. I'm going to give it a 6, and that's only because I like the dynamic between the father and the son, because it felt very real to me. It felt like a real father-son. I know people who has issues like that with their father. I've seen these things. I've had conversations with friends, and it just seemed very real. I love that Sean Connery played against type, and I enjoy these type of things. I give it a 6, but like I said, I'll never watch these again. Never.
Again, I wish upon you a significant other that has never seen these films. So
And the moment I see you, I'm going to hug you because you felt the same way about that bike ride as I did, and then I'm going to murder you.
that's fair. Hug and then murder, a totally normal that's how things go. So we are going to raid tonight. We are going to raid one of our common folks that we always raid, and that's the Raven Armed. But the Raven Armed seems to be a fan and has invited us every time we've come in there to at least say hi and be nice. So we're going to go ahead and do that. That said, we did get Marvelites. He said 5, right? Didn't like this one?
Yes,
Okay.
5.
Just wanted to make sure. And I think we got everybody else's in the chat as we went. I don't know if anybody said this one, but uh-oh. Yep. Yep. I had a feeling that was going to happen. So we will be doing the John Wick trilogy soon. This will not be next week. Next week we do have a guest. Sinjin will be on our show next week. He's one of the many TikTok movie talkers, and he is a film student and just graduated from film school, and will want to come on and talk about what might be next in his career, as well as talking about movies. So, say what?
Once he said it was worth it.
Oh no, totally.
I love
That said,
Wait, I have some points. Maybe I should redeem Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
so you still have some redemptions outstanding, so we'll have to wait till we get through those first.
Good way of telling me to stop.
No, you have Howard the Duck still, and then I know
I
that
want to rescind that one now.
I know that we have, now that you watch it, we still have War Games that was done, and then we still have Smoking Aces. So we might have like a hodgepodge night where it's just kind of whatever we got. But
I would love a hodgepodge night. That'd be fun.
hodgepodge nights can be fun rather than like all themed, with one guy at the helm of everything.
The triple feature.
But those are nice too, though. Like honestly, I do like when we do like director centric things. I like when we do theme things, but I also love when we're just like, let's pick from a hat 3 movies. I like that too.
Well, that's why the guests are always kind of fun, because they'll pick a movie and then we got to kind of figure out like what works, what doesn't work. That said, we hope you guys have a great evening. This has been The Real Study, and we will be back next week. Hope you guys have a great evening. We are rating.
Good night.
Mwah.
Let's see how this goes.
Love you all.
Oh, we're gonna get through the commercial for them, but that's okay.
Love you too, Mr. Marvelet.
No. Good night, guys.
Just so you guys know, I pick on you because I love you.
I don't think anything otherwise.
Okay, good.